Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas. In his Catholic faith, this is day 136. So let's get started. We're covering today questions 38 and 39 of the Secundae, that is, of contention and of schism. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code Summa 10. And so here we go. Article 1, whether contention is a mortal sin. The difference between discord, which was our last episode, and contention is the following according to St. Thomas. Wherefore, just as discord denotes a contrariety of wills, so contention signifies contrariety of speech. So contention is disagreement in speech specifically. Does it constitute mortal sin? If one is speaking out against another's falsehood, the act may be praiseworthy. If one is speaking out against the truth, then it may be blameworthy. But one must also question the motive of the action in order to determine its moral character. If one is contending against his brother out of hatred for his brother, then as being contrary to charity, this act would be mortal. But if such an act is only slightly immoderate in execution while its intention is good, it will only be venially sinful. If the act of contention is against falsehood and conducted virtuously and out of charity, then it will be praiseworthy simply. Article 2, whether contention is a daughter of vainglory. And it can be. Have you ever met someone who refuses to lose an argument even though they are clearly in the wrong, and for the sake of saving face or preserving their perceived excellence? In a word from St. Thomas, it is proper to pride and vainglory to seek one's own glory. And just as people are discordant when they hold to their own opinion in their hearts, so are they contentious when each defends his own opinion by words. And with that, we turn to question 39 on schism. Article 1, whether schism is a special sin. Is schism a unique sin? St. Augustine distinguishes schism from heresy in the following words. Schismatic is one who holds the same faith and practices the same worship as others, yet takes pleasure in the mere disunion of the community, whereas a heretic is one who holds another faith from that of the Catholic Church. This is why we call the Orthodox churches schismatic, because they have separated themselves from the successor of Peter, the authority of the Bishop of Rome, which does unite the entire body of Christ on earth, what we call the church militant. However, their worship is legitimate. Their creed goes back to the Council of Nicaea. We accept their baptism, their other sacraments as valid, etc. They are schismatic rather than heretical. Therefore, these sins must be something distinct. And someone who is part of a schismatic sect may not themselves be guilty of the sin of schism because it was never something voluntarily they might have committed. A man on an island with an Orthodox church may think it is the one true church of God. In St. Thomas's words, accordingly, schismatics properly so called are those who willfully and intentionally separate themselves from the unity of the church. Article 2, whether schism is a graver sin than unbelief. And it's a good question. It would seem, since schism is contrary to the bond of charity, whereas unbelief is contrary to the virtue of faith, that just as charity is a greater, more ultimate virtue as attaining to God as he is, then faith, which although it has God for its object, is shadowy in this life and passes away after death, then we would think schism to be a greater sin than unbelief. But St. Thomas sees it differently. He writes, it is evident that unbelief is a sin committed against God himself, accordingly as he is himself the first truth on which faith is founded. Whereas schism is opposed to ecclesiastical unity, which is a participated good and a lesser good than God himself. And so St. Thomas is saying that schism is contrary to charity insofar as it relates to one's neighbor, while unbelief is a sin directly against God. And so responding to our first comment, St. Thomas writes, Charity has two objects. One is its principal object, and that is the divine goodness. The other is its secondary object, and this is our neighbor's good. Now, schism and other sins against our neighbor are opposed to charity in respect of its secondary good, which is less than the object of faith. Article 3, whether schismatics have any power. Speaking to schismatic bishops specifically, what spiritual authority do they have? Aquinas affirms that a schismatic bishop's ordinations are legitimate, and he quotes Pope Urban II to that effect, who said, "We command that persons consecrated by bishops who were themselves consecrated according to the Catholic rite, but have separated themselves by schism from the Roman Church, should be received mercifully, and that their orders should be acknowledged when they return to the unity of the Church, provided they be of commendable life and knowledge." However, when it comes to other ecclesiastical powers, those which Aquinas considers powers of jurisdiction over a particular area, a particular body of the faithful, these are lost once a bishop separates from the highest authority, which is the vicar of Christ on earth. In his words, consequently, they neither absolve nor excommunicate nor grant indulgence nor do anything of the kind, and if they do, it is invalid. Article 4, our last article, whether it is right that schismatics should be punished with excommunication. Aquinas answers this question very briefly. So, simply quoting him, he writes, according to the Book of Wisdom, by what things a man sins, by the same also he should be punished. Now, a schismatic, by separating himself from communion with the members of the Church, in this respect, the fitting punishment for the schismatic is that they be excommunicated. Which brings us to the end of a very brief episode. We have just finished covering questions 38 and 39 of the Secundae, that is, of contention and of schism. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.